Hello, and welcome to the third chapter in the 2025 M-STEP Administration Training for Building and District Assessment Coordinators. In this part of the training series, I'm going to go over the important tasks that need to be done when testing is over. First, I'm going to talk about handling your testing materials after testing. I'll talk about how to manage your secure materials as well as what to do with non-secure materials. Next, I'm going to discuss how to package your materials to get ready to send back to the scoring contractor. Although I'm going to include this information in this training, remember that you are going to need to rely on the Test Administration Manual, or TAM, when the time comes to get things ready. The directions are very specific, and it's important that you follow each requirement. Then I will discuss the reporting of student test scores. There are reports that are available shortly after the student submits an online test, and there are final reports available later in the summer. I'm going to talk about the preliminary reports that become available within 48 hours of students submitting the test, and then I'll just briefly touch on the final reports. Next, we will discuss the important tasks to be completed in the secure site after the spring test administration windows have ended. These tasks may impact accountability calculations and reporting for your school or schools, and as such can be critical for your review to correct any potential errors. We discuss them in this training. However, there's also information available about the individual tasks mentioned here on the Secure Site Training page at michigan.gov/secure site training. Be sure to familiarize yourself with the resources and instructions posted under the Accountable Students and Test Verification section to help ensure that your school's student information and test results are accurate for any assessment and accountability reporting purposes they may be used for. Handling testing materials. In this next section, I will discuss handling test materials. This will include both secure and non-secure materials. There are some secure materials that don't have to be sent back to the scoring contractor, but can't just be left hanging around the school. These are the secure materials that have to be securely destroyed at the school or district. By securely destroyed, that means shredding the materials in such a way that they cannot be seen or put back together by anyone. If you're a school that tested only online, then secure materials for you are going to be limited to the printed test tickets and rosters and any used scratch and graph paper. Paper/pencil schools have more secure materials than online testing, of course, but as far as secure materials that need to be destroyed, then we're talking about the used scratch and graph paper, L1 glossaries, that means the first language glossaries used by students learning English. All of the rest of the secure materials in paper/pencil testing have to be returned to the scoring contractor. As we go through the next few slides, it's important to remember that there is a new vendor handling paper/pencil testing this year, the Data Recognition Corporation, called DRC. There have been several updates for paper/pencil testing which were covered in the other chapters of this training. But remember that when it comes time to return paper/pencil materials, it is important that you follow the directions provided in the TAM. Here's the table from the TAM that's going to be your most helpful guide when it comes time to prepare your materials after testing. There's a table for what to do with your secure materials and a separate table for what to do with materials that aren't secure. You'll notice that there's a column for what needs to be returned, a column for what schools keep and what schools destroy. Of course, there's nothing in the schools keep column, because secure materials cannot be kept hanging around the school or district. There are some materials in the non-secure table that I'll show you next that schools can keep. So, things that have to be returned to the scoring contractor are, of course, the used answer documents, all of the test booklets that were sent to you, and accommodated versions of the test have to be sent back too. Accommodated versions of the test are things like reader scripts, braille materials, enlarged print, and the audio recordings, or if you have any video recordings, or translated versions of the test. And then the listening recordings and scripts for ELA need to be returned to the scoring contractor. All of those materials are monitored and checked back in at the contractor, so we will be counting to ensure that all of those materials that were delivered are returned. That's a reason why you want to make sure that you inventory your materials when you get them. If you have anything on your packing list that's not included in your shipment, you need to let us know as soon as you get your materials. Don't wait for after testing and then you don't have what is expected to be returned. If you have any issues with your inventory, send an email to md-oeaa@michigan.gov. Next, we have the secure materials that need to be destroyed. Test tickets and rosters, L1 glossaries for mathematics, and used scratch and graph paper all need to be securely destroyed after testing. Here's the table for non-secure test materials. Make sure you're reviewing the TAM as you get your materials ready so that you don't miss anything. Again, you'll notice there's a whole column that's empty here, the Return to MSTEP Contractor column. Of course, that's because non-secure materials don't need to be returned. Schools can keep test administration manuals, the test administrator's directions and manuals, the OEAA security compliance forms and testing schedules. The security compliance forms, testing schedules, and training materials have to be stored at the district for 3 years. The materials that you destroy are any unused answer documents, and if you aren't using the special handling envelope. The deadline for returning those materials to the scoring contractor is May 7th. This is the final date by which all materials must be shipped for return in order for tests to be scored. This is included in the TAM and is also in the important dates documents. Materials need to be shipped for return by the listed date, or they will not be scored. When returning your materials, be sure to put the MSTEP DRC return shipping label on the top of each box. All materials, both scorable and non-scorable, may be returned in the same box. The next few slides will discuss the updates for paper/pencil testing to help you prepare for materials return. Be sure to follow the directions provided in the TAM when it is time to prepare your materials for return. Barcode labels are unique by student and content area. It's important that you verify each barcode on the answer documents are correct for the student and content area. Also, this slide includes a reminder that the size of the barcode labels is significantly different now. You can only use the blank labels that are printed and shipped by DRC if you need to print barcode labels locally. These may be ordered from the additional material order page in the secure site if you find that you need more. Word process documents cannot be scored. Everything has to be transcribed into the student answer document. Make sure you read and follow the instructions for materials return in the TAM this year. Several things have changed, and it will be important that you follow all directions explicitly. First, the return vendor is UPS, and we are using UPS RS labels. They are included with your initial material order if you ordered any paper/pencil materials. If you don't initially order paper/pencil materials but then later order them during the additional material orders, then they will be included in that order. We'll no longer write "do not score" on the top of an answer document that shouldn't be scored. Instead, use the labels that are provided in your material orders. There is no longer any special handling envelope, and answer documents must be returned in the clear bags that are provided. The important thing to remember is to make sure you read the test administration manual if you had any students testing paper/pencil this year, when it's time to return your materials. Reporting. Here I'm going to discuss reporting. I'm mostly going to focus on the preliminary reports since that's what will be available first. Then the final reports will be available later in the summer. More information about final reports will be available later this summer. Watch the spotlight and look for the interpretive guide to MSTEP reports once final reports are available. The preliminary reports are available 48 hours after the student submits the test. They remain available until later this summer when final data are released. Preliminary reports are accessed through the secure site by selecting the Reports drop-down and then selecting Dynamic Score Reports. Preliminary reports include only machine-scored items. They do not include any hand-scored items. More detailed information about the preliminary reports and the data in them will be available in the About This Report document that is provided in the Dynamic Score Reporting site. Schools can view student preliminary scores within 48 hours of the student submitting the test. There is a K-12 literacy law indicator on the Grade 3 ELA reports that shows whether the student met the requirements or needs additional supports. We encourage you to monitor preliminary reports to identify students who need supports before parents receive letters. This screenshot shows you an example of a third-grade ELA preliminary report. The preliminary scale score is plotted as below or above benchmark, which is the proficiency designation or cut. Not proficient, partially proficient, proficient, and advanced designations are not available until the final score reports. Subscore data is available on the preliminary report, of course, based on preliminary data. You can see the K-12 literacy law indicators listed here. This is where you should look to identify the students who have been identified as needing supports. As mentioned earlier, preliminary reports will remain available until final reports are released. It's important to remember that the spring 2025 preliminary reports and data are embargoed. Individual student results may be shared with parents. It is not permissible to share any preliminary student roster report results, including locally generated data, with any external stakeholders. The preliminary student roster is for school and district use only and may not be shared with the public. Board meetings are open meetings, therefore, the sharing of embargoed assessment results at these meetings is not allowed. Final reports typically become available in late August. Make sure you watch the Spotlight newsletter. There will be announcements posted there when the final reports become available. When they are available, make sure you look for the Interpretive Guide to MSTEP report document that provides detailed information about each report. Secure site after testing tasks. After testing is completed, there are some important tasks that need to be done in the secure site. You'll need to log into the secure site and review the data that is posted and verify that everything is correct. In this section, we will review these tasks. Accountable Students Enrolled in Demographics is the screen in the OEAA secure site where you can look at the list of students who are expected to test for your school or district for your accountability ratings. The demographic information for students is also on this page. You need to go to the Accountable Students Enrolled in Demographics page to verify that the names and information are correct. This happens beginning April 28th. Make sure you keep an eye on the Spotlight newsletter, as we will post detailed information there when these tasks need to be done. The data on this screen comes from the Michigan Student Data System, or MSDS. Remember, the students listed here will be included in accountability calculations, so it's important that you verify the information. Student demographics will be used in assessment and accountability reporting. While schools can continue to update MSDS through mid-June, OEAA will only use student data with an as-of date on or before May 23rd. That means that the data that is available on May 23rd will be the data used in the accountability calculations. Make sure it's correct. In order to fix any errors, you need to correct the error in MSDS. Your school or district will have an authorized user for MSDS who can access the system to update the data. Work with whomever this person is to make sure that your information is correct on time. There's a page in the secure site, under the Assessment Registration tab called District and School Contacts, that will show you who your authorized MSDS user is, in case you don't know who that is. Watch the weekly Spotlight newsletter for availability and deadline information. What should you do with this list of students and demographics? Well, you start by verifying that homeschooled students and non-public school students are not included on the list of enrolled students. You also need to verify that students who are currently enrolled are listed. Make sure to continue to verify the student enrollment through the deadline, but it's only going to include students who are enrolled in MSDS as of May 23rd. Verify that students who have exited the school are not listed. And finally, verify student demographic information is correct. If you find errors or information that needs to be updated, you will need to work with your district MSDS authorized user to get those updates in MSDS. If you don't know who your MSDS authorized user is, again, you can find that information on the secure site, on the District and School Contacts page under the Assessment Registration dropdown. The Answer Documents Received and Not Tested screen will display the list of students for whom the testing vendors have received either a paper/pencil or an online test. This is the only opportunity for schools to review this listing and to report possible issues that may be able to be resolved before assessment and accountability reporting. This list will also display tests that may be invalidated for various reasons. Some of the reasons for invalidation may be appealed or corrected to ensure a student receives a valid score. This will also be the opportunity for schools to submit a reason why a student did not test, for review by the Accountability Office for a possible exemption. So, what do you do with this list? First, you need to verify that all of the listed paper/pencil and all online tests that were taken are listed as having been received. This is the window when student not tested issues can be submitted. You need to do this if you have a student who tested at the school, but the list doesn't include the student. If a student is correctly listed as not having been tested, then a student did not test issue, including the reason the student did not test, needs to be submitted. More information will be available about the not tested window. Watch the Spotlight newsletter for more information. If a student who did not test at the school is listed as having tested at the school, an incorrect tested school issue needs to be submitted. There's an invalid tab that lists students whose tests will be invalidated with a note about why the test will be included. Some reasons for invalidation can be appealed or could be fixed in MSDS to ensure the student receives a valid score. Make sure that you review these so that invalid tests are reported correctly. This is the only opportunity to report any possible issues that could be resolved and to submit a reason why a student did not test for a possible accountability exemption. Submitting a not tested issue through the incident reporting tool in the OEAA Secure site will not resolve this issue. It must be submitted through the Answer Documents Received and Not Tested process. The Answer Documents Received and Not Tested windows will come up after testing is over. Again, make sure that you receive the Spotlight newsletter each week for updates. These are a few links that'll be helpful as you go through these tasks after testing. First, the Best Practices MSDS Reporting Guide for Trouble-Free Accountability Data is a resource that will help you if you have any questions about MSDS reporting. Next is the Secure Site Training page. This page has detailed instructions for each task that needs to be done in the Secure site. It's a great resource, whether you're brand new to testing and need step-by-step instructions, or if you've been doing assessment for a while, but just need a refresher for these once-a-year tasks. And then the link to the MSTEP web page. A lot of resources are posted here, and it's organized into categories to help make it easier to find what you need. And here's our plug to make sure you're getting the Spotlight newsletter in your email every Thursday. This is where we share important information from OEAA. If you haven't signed up for Spotlight yet, go to michigan.gov/MD-Spotlight to sign up. Thanks for joining me for this training series. I hope it's been helpful. If you have strategies that you're using in your building to help with any of the tasks that I discussed here, send us an email at md-a@michigan.gov. We often include suggestions from the field with districts or schools to help make sure everyone has a successful test administration. All of the helpful hints that we included in the TAM come from suggestions from the field, so make sure to share what's working for you. It'll help other schools or districts as they navigate through testing tasks. Thanks for watching.